In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to my channel. I am Assistant Professor of English in Higher Education Department of the Government of the Punjab. Apart from the vocabulary lectures that I have included in this series of lectures twice, we have talked about Anglo-Saxon age, that was the beginning of English literature, by all means. Next, we started talking about medieval English literature, and this present lecture is going to be concluding lecture, the last lecture of this medieval English literature. As far as the importance of this series of lectures is concerned, this is of a sort of supplementary importance. I have recommended some books in my introductory lectures as far as the preparation for the history of English literature is concerned, introduction to genres, English linguistics, literary forms and movements. So you can go to the very first lecture of this series of lectures and see the recommended books there. Another difference that you are going to notice in the front screen of this lecture as compared to the previous lectures is that there is no motivational tag on this screen. I have deliberately done it, although it is up to you what you make of this picture that is present on the left side of this screen. But my message is that you should read as much as possible for this preparation. Be a prolific and copious reader. Read whatever you come across. Dedicate yourselves for the preparation, and do not let yourself be down by any discouraging remark or anything that hinders your reading stamina. If you have been following this series of lectures, it means that you have liked my previous videos, and if you are new and come straight to this lecture, then I assure you that this series of lectures is of extremely help for as far as candidates of the post of lecturer in English are concerned. So I advise you to subscribe my channel and also hit the bell icon that is present just beside that subscribe button. My next advice is not to underestimate any age of English literature. There is significant and indispensable continuity in English literature, and no matter what age you study about, you will feel that it is linked to the previous circumstances that have gone before it. Apart from the contemporary circumstances like politics, religions, traditions, and all other things that are going on at the same moment of the composition, there are also some things that are linking it with the previous literature that has gone before that. So there is continuity that you cannot ignore, and that can not be ignored either. That should not be ignored. That must not be ignored, but rather it is the correct expression. So without any delay, let's go to the first question of this lecture. This is going to be the last lecture, last 30 multiple choice questions as far as medieval English literature is concerned. Question number 71. Why is it 71? Because we have already discussed 70 questions, and if you are curious about what those 70 questions were, kindly go to my previous lectures and attempt them all, and then come to this lecture to attempt these 30 questions, last 30 questions from medieval English literature. And if you have any confusion and question, you can ask me on my Facebook link, or even you can comment below this lecture on YouTube. Question number 71 says, what is the most remarkable element in Canterbury Tales from societal standpoint, right? Societal standpoint, not literary standpoint. This must be kept in mind while choosing this answer. And I would like to remind you that you must read the question carefully, then read all the options, pause the video, and choose the correct answer. And then you must resume the video in order to find out whether you have chosen the correct answer or not, because I will definitely display and mark the correct answer here. The work conforms with means is in compliance with, is according to the prevalent social norms, values, traditions. The character portrayal is most representative of the 14th century England, or it depicted the peasants' rebellion truly. He included irony in his verse. Although first option is a very good option, because Geoffrey Chaucer is not regarded as some iconoclast like Henry Gibson or George Bernard Shaw that wrote some views that were against the prevalent views of that age, of their ages. But we have to see whether this alpha option is the best option of all these four options or not. The second option says the character portrayal is most representative of the 14th century England. Now this is better than alpha option because it is considered that the characters that are portrayed by Geoffrey Chaucer are the types. They were definitely there in that age, and if he portrayed nun or Franklin or the clerk or whatever, those were types, right? They had exactly the same attributes and qualities that were present in those characters. So this is the best option beta. Question number 72. According to Chaucer's plan, how many stories was every character supposed to tell? 1, 2, 3 or 4. Straightforward options are there, but the correct option is 4 because every character was supposed to tell 2 stories on the way to Canterbury and 2 on the way from Canterbury home. What is special in Chaucer's characterization of the knight, the parson, the plowman, right? What is special about these? These characters have been caricatured, they have been made the laughing stocks, they have been cartoonized, they have been idealized. They are the leaders of the pilgrims or none of these. The correct option, of course, is they have been idealized. Even if you have read a general prologue or prologue to the Canterbury Tales, you must have noticed that characterization of these three characters is idealized. Question 74 states that in addition to many other merits, Chaucer can also be credited with praised for exhibiting various literary forms through different tales. The Knight's Tale is a courtly romance. Miller's and Reeves' tales are fabulo. I have told you about these literary forms, and if you are not sure about them, again, you are advised to go to my previous lectures. Whose tale is a bestiary? Beast, fable. What is fable? Even we have talked about this literary form. The correct option here is nuns, priest tales. 75th question. Which of the following sets of attributes is perfect for wife of Bath? She is a very interesting character. If you have read a prologue to the Canterbury Tales, even her prologue is very important, very interesting. Now you have to choose the correct set of characteristics. Strong-willed, opinionated, frank, humorous, shy, reserved, down-to-earth, anti-feminist, misogynist is anybody who hates women, morally corrupt. Philanthropist is antonym for misanthropist, and misanthrope is a word that you must be familiar with if you have read Jonathan Swift, Gulliver's Travels. Due to Gulliver's Travels and its voyage 4, the voyage to Vinham Land or Hinonim Land, whatever it is pronounced, although both are correct, Vinham or Hinonim, the horses there were called Vinhanims and the other creature was called Yahoos. So due to that fourth voyage, Swift was called a misanthropist. Alright. Misanthropist is a person who hates human beings, and a philanthropist is a person who loves human beings. Altruist is also similarly a person who cares for others more than himself or herself. Selfless is antonym of selfish. Mortified, although can have various different connotations, but here it means that a person who has subdued or controlled his own emotions and feelings and desires. Now the first set of characteristics is correct here. The next thing, a Tale of Malaby was narrated in prose. By whom? Shipman, Franklin, Clerk, or Chaucer himself? Because Chaucer himself was also there among the pilgrims, and although he is known as a master narrator in verse, Geoffrey Chaucer, but due to some unknown circumstances, he told his own story in the form of prose, and he was not really good at that in that genre, in prose genre. He was a skillful verse narrator, poet. That is why it is said that the most ordinary expression that can be found in Canterbury Tales is of his own tale, because it was told in prose. So I have told you the answer. It was Chaucer himself who told the story in the form of prose. Where were all the pilgrims going? It is a very easy question. If you have not read about it, then it might seem difficult to you, but the correct option is Thomas Becket. Who is the host of pilgrims at Tabard Inn? We have already discussed that it was Tabard Inn where all the pilgrims stayed, and they gathered, they met each other, and they planned their future journey. It was Harry Bailey, right? Without wasting our time, it was Harry Bailey. The real name of the wife of Bath is Mary, Madame Eglantine, Sophia, Alison. Again, there is hardly anything to be discussed here, so it is Alison. Question number 80. The host at Tabard Inn proposed the plan of narrating tales on the way to and from Canterbury. This is the first piece of information, and a separate question can also be made out of this piece of information, that who was it who proposed the plan of narrating tales on the way to and from Canterbury. So keep in mind that it was the host of the Tabard Inn, and he was Harry Bailey, we have just discussed. The question here is, what was the reward for doing so? Was it a bundle of cloth? No. Supper and inn on the return? Yes. Expenses of the pilgrimage by him? No. And a bag of gold again? No. What kind of lines are mostly employed by Chaucer in his Canterbury Tales? Octosyllabic lines means the line in which there are 8 syllables. Pentasyllabic lines in which there are 5 syllables. Decasyllabic lines? Yes. Tetra 4-syllabic lines? No. Correct option, of course, is decasyllabic lines in which there are 10 syllables, and this was the sort of line that was going to be the most popular in the upcoming age, in which there was a iambic pentameter. Pentameter means when there were 5 sets of syllables. Every syllable had every unstressed syllable had to be followed by a stressed syllable. Next thing is, here is God's plenty, and you must have read that if you have read in some detail about the Canterbury Tales and prologue to the Canterbury Tales. Here is God's plenty. Now the question is, who said this famous line about Geoffrey Chaucer and his Canterbury Tales? John Dryden, Alexander Pope, Samuel Johnson, Ben Jonson. Pause the video, choose your answer, and then resume it to find whether the question and the answer that you have chosen is correct or incorrect. The correct option here is John Dryden. Right? All the other options are incorrect. The next question says, John Gower, a contemporary of the same age of Chaucer, was born in which year and died in which year? You have to choose the years in correct order. And here the correct order is 1330 and 1408. Another thing that you must have noticed in these options is the letter C, and this was also present when we talked about the year of birth and death about Geoffrey Chaucer, and I told you that it was circa, CIRCA. It means roundabout, almost, because nobody knew that John Gower, Geoffrey Chaucer, or any famous person was going to be a very prominent figure in history of English literature or history of science or whatever when they were born. Right? At the time of their birth, nobody knew that they were going to be prominent figures in the history. So nobody remembered really. But at the time of their death, definitely many people knew them, and it was hardly disputable that they died in which year. Next thing is, what was the profession of Chaucer's father? Vintner, wine merchant, blacksmith, parson, apothecary, a person who deals in medicine and sells them as their profession. Correct option here is wine merchant. The next option is, Gower is sometimes regarded as more representative of his age than Chaucer was. Most of his work was didactic, moralizing in nature, due to which Chaucer calls him what in his dedication to the Troilus and Criseyde? Now also you must remember this piece of information, that Chaucer dedicated his Troilus and Criseyde to John Gower. And what is the term that he uses for John Gower? Preacher and prophet. You know, these are very common words, so there is going to be hardly doubt about what they mean. But you might be confused about the word soothsayer. He is actually a fortune teller, a sort of astronomer. Moral Gower exactly is the option that was the term used by Geoffrey Chaucer in his dedication. The next question is written in Old Alliterative Measure, alliteration, you know what it is. In the latter part of the 14th century, Piers Plowman is by an unknown author, but mostly attributed to. Piers Plowman is a poem, and it is said that nobody exactly knows who wrote that poem, but agreement unites on one name. And now exactly what that name is, you have to choose the correct option, and it is William Langland. How many versions of Piers Plowman are there? There are 3 versions. Without wasting our time, why are Thomas Hawkley and John Lydgate important in the history of English literature? Are they Chaucer's followers? There can be hardly any doubt about it, but my advice for you has been to read all the given options. It is possible that the first option is correct, but there can be even a better option present in the upcoming option, so make it your habit to read all the options. They are reactionary poets of Chaucer's age. Reactionary means who resist the change that is proposed by that age, that is being made by that age. They destroyed the development of English language so painstakingly set adrift by Chaucer. It means that Geoffrey Chaucer worked really hard to make English language a medium for literary compositions, because till that age French and Latin were more popular and they were given a more importance, but Geoffrey Chaucer worked really hard. And this option says that are Thomas Hawkley and John Lydgate responsible for any destruction of this effort by Geoffrey Chaucer, or none of these? The correct option here is, of course, they are Chaucer's followers, right? The next option, question, Thomas Hawkley was a minor, they said, whereas Lydgate, you have to tell their social standings, their professions, what they did for their living. Civil servant or monk? Thomas Hawkley was civil servant and Lydgate was a monk, or vice versa. Thomas Hawkley was a courtier and Lydgate was a soldier, or Hawkley was a soldier and Lydgate was a general. The correct option here is alpha, right? Thomas Hawkley was a minor civil servant and Lydgate was a monk. And now you have to tell the next question, how much of Lydgate's poetry still survive? 50,000 lines, 100,000 lines, 145,000 lines, 180,000 lines. Interestingly, 145,000 lines survive from Lydgate's poetry. He was a very prolific, very copious writer, but again, there is only quantity here that is important, and he is historically very important, but skill, as far as skill is concerned, he was not very skillful, and it is said that he was widely regarded as a boring poet. William Caxton, he is a very important figure as far as English literature is concerned, because he was a person who is responsible for bringing printing press to England, and his lifespan is 1422 to 1491, printed about 80 books. Now the question is, Recall of the Histories of Troy at Bridges was the first English book printed in, the correct option is 1474. In 1506, Stephen Hawes wrote Pastime of Player, a poem. Whom did he dedicate this poem? He was a courtly poet, so instead of dedicating this poem to any poet like Gower, Chaucer or Lydgate, he dedicated it to Henry VII, that is also called Henry Tudor. The Ship of Fools, that is the name of the poem, written in 1509, is widely regarded as the predecessor to Erasmus' Praise of Folly. Erasmus is also a writer. The question is, who wrote the former poem, Ship of Fools? The hint is, its writer was born in 1475, died in 1552. Exactly, the option is Alexander Barclay. right? Alexander Berkeley. Option Charlie. Next question says, Troilus and Criseyde was most probably composed in the middle of, option is 1380s. Okay, next question is 95. Dreamleggery as a literary form was at last replaced by eclogues. At the start of 16th century, how can an eclogue be described, right? What is eclogue? You have to choose the correct definition. A novel from a form of hymn. Novel means new form of hymn. Hymn is a poem, right? We say hamd in Urdu, in praise of God Almighty. A pastoral dialogue. Pastoral means set in village settings, often satirical, containing satire. Allegorical drama, a riddle poem. The correct option here is a pastoral dialogue, often satirical. Alright. The next question asks, Alexander Berkeley wrote how many eclogues? 3, 4, 5 or 6? So the correct option is 5. Question number 97. Now we are moving to the end of this lecture. Why is Sir Thomas Malory important in the history of English literature? He translated the Arthurian romances into prose. He wrote the whole matter of Britain in prose. He was the first to write a sonnet, a 14-line poem. Now you must have noticed that I have not explained some term right, like matter of Britain and romance, because I have already discussed and defined and talked in detail about them in my previous lectures. So it is advised for you to go to those lectures and find correct definitions there. A sonnet, I have not mentioned it before, so I am telling you that it is a poem that contains 40 lines, a sonnet. So he was the first to write sonnet? No, it was Thomas York, the Earl of Surrey, who is considered as the pioneer as far as writing sonnet is concerned. He was a pioneer in using blank verse. No, it was Henry Howard. I beg your pardon here. It was Henry Howard, the Earl of Surrey, who was responsible in introducing blank verse in English language, and Thomas York, he was responsible in introducing sonnet in English language. The correct option here in this question is that he translated the Arthurian romances into prose. Last 3 questions of this lecture. Question number 98 says the work of Sir Thomas Malory was printed by Caxton in 1485, right? 1485. Wars of the Roses was a civil strife dispute between the houses of York and Lancaster, represented by white and red roses respectively, right? White rose for York and red rose for Lancaster. It was fought in the reign of 3 monarchs. Which of the following was not among those 3? The correct option here is Henry VII, because he was the person who ended this war. So all the other monarchs definitely fought this war. The last question of Middle English literature is the struggle was largely ended in 1485 by defeat and death of Yorkist King Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth and the accession of the Lancastrian Henry Tudor. I already told you who Henry Tudor is, so if you remember that and you are following this lecture closely, then you must not find any difficulty in choosing the correct answer to this question. United the 2 houses by marrying the daughter of Edward IV. So what was her name? Again, using common sense, if Edward IV and Richard III have already been mentioned, it means that from this question number 99, these 2, Richard III and Edward IV, cannot be the correct answers. Again, this is also a hint that if you read a question, you must also have a bird's eye view of the next question. There might be some hint in the next question for you if they are connected to each other. Here you have to tell the name of whose name. He united the 2 houses by marrying the daughter of Edward IV. Henry Tudor, Henry VII, right? Henry VII married a lady. You have to tell the name of that lady, and that lady was the daughter of Edward IV. Her name was Elizabeth, Victoria, Nero, none of these. Nero is not even a name of a lady, because he was a Roman emperor, a male emperor. Here the correct option is Elizabeth, Alpha option. So this was the lecture. This was the last lecture as far as Middle English literature is concerned. If you find any difficulty in anything that you have seen here, you can ask me any question from my Facebook ID or the comment section of YouTube. So till the next lecture, goodbye, take care.